Hello, ladies and gents, and welcome back to Wunu, your weekly Universal news and updates. Whether you love Universal for the spook or for the thrill, oh boy have I got news for you this week. So stick around as we dive into all of the changes I found at Universal Orlando this week. Yes, this week we actually have updates on Halloween Horror Nights. Now, disappointingly, it's not on the actual event itself, as our 30 Years of Fear is still being pushed back to 2021. However, we have something that is close to Halloween Horror Nights as we're going to be getting for this spooky season. This week, the Halloween Horror Nights Tribute Store opened 2 brand new rooms, nearly doubling it in size. Both of these rooms continue the highly themed trend that the Tribute Store holds, and are just as spooky as Frankenstein's Lab and the Icons Room. The first of these 2 rooms is the haunted attic-themed bakery room. This room is stuffed to the brim with references and props from past Halloween Horror Nights houses and scare zones such as mannequins from The Purge and even the head of the Halloween Horror Nights bear. Another cool feature that can be found in this room is on top of the area where you can actually buy the sweets is a tray of candy hearts that can actually beat. As for what is actually sold in the bakery, you can find a large variety of spooky-themed treats that are sold nowhere else in the park, that include, but are not limited to, a graveyard cake, severed lime slime, key lime mummy tarts, and the less scary but delicious-looking maple bacon donuts. Also, I do repeat that this isn't even half the desserts they serve. There is just way too many things for me to list, as this video would end up being like 25 minutes long. The second room that was just added to the Tribute Store is the highly predicted Beetlejuice room. Even just walking into this room makes it feel like you're in the movie itself. It is so detailed. All around the room you can find scenes recreated from the movie, such as the Beetlejuice snake scene, Raised from the Dead scene. You can find the model bar that Beetlejuice makes, the dead waiting room counter and hallways, which is the cashiers now, and my personal favorite, the 1-1 remake of Beetlejuice's Grave. Or 1-1 if you say his name 3 times at least. The room is also packed with small props from the movie, like the handbook for the recently deceased that is set on a table at the entrance for the room, the Beetlejuice flyers that can be found on the floor, and even the newspapers are replicas of the ones that Beetlejuice reads in the beginning of the movie. The one last thing to note for decoration of this room is the facade around the back of the room in the bar that Beetlejuice creates in the movie houses is an actual pair of double doors. These ones don't have posters that literally state that there will be more rooms like we had on the doors, leading to these 2 new rooms, meaning this could just be a fire escape, but it is exciting to think that the Tribute Store might be looking at even more expansions in the future. As for what is sold in the Beetlejuice room is you can find an entire collection of Beetlejuice merchandise that was accidentally released in City Walk for a day and then taken back earlier this week. This collection of merchandise includes a Beetlejuice shirt, hat, face mask, multiple pairs of socks, a lanyard, a pin, a keychain, and a handbook for recently deceased notebooks and lunch tins. With these new rooms opening in the Tribute Store, a couple of other rooms were also introduced to the shop, just not as major as the past 2. In order to actually get to either of the 2 rooms, you first have to walk through a hallway that has posters from almost all of the past HHN events on the walls, along with some other questionable posters. Another room that came with the 2 other rooms is the re-themed version of the Exit Room, which is an ultra-accurate recreation of the seating area of the waiting room for the undead, where Beetlejuice's original number in the movie can be found sitting on a vacant chair. In other changes for the Tribute Store, and yes, there are even more, in the Icons room, new smellerizers were installed that currently pumping the smell of pumpkins and fall spices into the Tribute Store. As for new merchandise, we haven't had a shortened amount in these rooms either, with this week introducing a new Artist Palace Jack the Clown t-shirt, hoodie, and artwork to the Icons room. Also now sold in the Tribute Store are artworks for the Icons and an artwork for the comic book print. Plus, the Tribute Store now sells 4 different Icons cups and a new blacklight reflective Frankenstein shirt. And to finish up our Tribute Store changes for this week, we have a small but new piece of merchandise, which is the UOAP 30 Years 30 Fears pin and a new Icons keychain. While it was truly amazing to talk about Halloween Horror Nights again in a video, as it doesn't come up with something major like this too often with the event being canceled and all. But maybe you clicked on this video for something else we got bigger news than normal on. So come with me and let's jump into our next topic. So a lot has happened in the field of construction for Universal this week, and with Epic Universe construction postponed until further notice, there is only one good place to start. You guessed it, the Velocicoaster. So this week we actually got something we haven't seen for 5 weeks on this construction site, which is some new track placement. The final S-bend has had some track added to it, meaning all that we need now is just a little bit more of the final straight placed, and then the entire track loop will be complete. By the way, when you look at the track from this back angle to get a better view of the new track, you can really see how well the main show buildings are coming along. Like, that looks like almost a complete building. Something equally as exciting that actually happened on the construction site this week as the new track placement. This week, people have spotted coaster trains being taken into the Universal and being stored in some of the maintenance garages. Disappointingly, they were covered, so we didn't get any spoilers on what the carts will look like, but these are on the site and the track is now almost finished. We could potentially be looking at some testing for the ride happening in the next couple of weeks. But wait, that's actually not all. Over the last couple of days, a giant raptor transfer gate has just erupted from the ground, and as time goes on, it extended down the construction wall. This structure could end up being anything from a building to the entrance of the perimeter fence, to the entrance to the perimeter fence. We'll just have to wait to find out. Also, the Osprey watch continues, as even after having their nest removed, the Ospreys actually built a new nest on top of the top hat. They obviously really like it there, as you can also find the Ospreys hanging out on it almost every day. But I'm sure it'll look forward to what step will be taken next in the war between Ospreys and construction workers. So that's all I've got on the Velocicoaster this week, which usually means I've moved on from construction at this point. But this week, some very minor construction actually ended up happening. Due to storm damage, Weasley's Wizard Wheezes had to put up some construction walls that were luckily very temporary and were taken down within 2 days. It's good they didn't last that long, as Muggle fences really don't fit into Diagon Alley. However, one place they do fit oddly low is in front of Hollywood Rip Ride Rocket. In order to prep for larger crowds on the weekends, Universal put up a lot of barriers in front of Hollywood Rip Ride Rocket in order to extend its queue to more people. This is most likely because Rocket has a pretty short queue when it's socially distanced, but this does really help show what kind of crowds Universal is getting on the weekends, and also helps us understand why they did something pretty major to their ticket prices, which we'll get into in the next section of the video. This week's news, but I've already jumped the gun and told you what Uni has done, so let's not dilly-dally on the topic. Universal has changed their ticket model from a always the same ticket price model to a varying ticket price model. This ticket price model basically means that the tickets will be more expensive on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, and also that tickets will be more expensive during these final summer months than the quickly approaching fall months. In other news for this week, we have something good that happened. Last week, Hagrid's Magical Motorbike Adventure had to close due to a backstage fire. This week, it's finally reopened. It's great to see the blast-ended Scroot and the Pegasus again, as you really don't realize that you miss them until they're gone. While on the topic of closed things reopening, that reminds me that on Saturday, a restaurant has followed the same path. Although it was only for Saturday, the normally closed Circus McDurkus restaurant reopened to help with crowds. But what are all of these crowds going to be flocking for when they're at the parks? A souvenir, of course, and that's why you need to stay updated on all of Universal's new merchandise. So what's new in the world of clothes and other random junk that holds precious memories that you can buy in amusement parks like Universal Studios? Well, with the most recent advancements in the Tribute Store, it seems Islands of Adventure wants to step up their Halloween Horror Nights merchandise game for the first time this year, as now the Islands Trading Company sells some of the Halloween Horror Nights merchandise that used to only be sold in City Walk and the Studios Park. Something to note about this merchandise, however, is as of recently, Uni has actually removed the 30 Years, 30 Fears patch from the sleeve of all of the retro t-shirts, meaning if you find one with the patch being sold, it is actually now a discontinued version of the item. Also, for the Halloween Horror Nights merchandise game in Islands of Adventure, Toon Extra now has the UOAP exclusive Halloween Horror Nights t-shirt and pins that were sold only in the Tribute Store and Annual Pass Holders Lounge before. Staying in Islands, but moving away from spooky merchandise, we have a few new pieces of merchandising available to guests that can actually be found in the Port of Entry Christmas store. A new Grinch-themed dinner plate, silverware set, and salt and pepper shaker set have come to the shop. Also, if you go just across the way to the Islands Trading Co., you can see that the Minions and Fluffy Unicorn masks are now the first masks in the park to come in small and extra small sizes. Also most likely found in the Trading Co., you will find new retro saltwater taffy, mints, and candy bars. So that's all the major things I could find in the parks this week, but some small things came up too. So what small things did I find in the parks this week? Well, this week the closed Kang and Kodo's Twirl and Hurl Alien actually turned around to face Springfield instead of the lake, which is the way it was previously facing. The Trolls World Tour stage and photo op was taken down from Kids Zone this week. And finally, the Wolfman banner has been temporarily removed from above the Monsters Cafe. So that's everything I could find in Universal this week. Wow, did a lot happen this week. It's quite refreshing, actually, to actually have things happen in the parks. But I'm not going to complain about the lack of news, as yet again, we just had quite the opposite of that. And instead, say thank you for watching. Leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more of my content. And with all of that said and done, this is Wunu, signing off.